The Cleveland Browns have made a what I consider a huge trade for them to abandon basically what their plan was for the season. And again, I really don't mind it. Like, I think we had seen all that we had needed to see from Joe Flacco. And so we're going to talk about this. So I wanted to jump on. My name is L Train from 3 The Hard Way. We don't have the captain with us. We don't have Hot Rod with us. I just wanted to jump on really quick without the fellas. Believe you me, we are going to cover this when we all get back together on 3 The Hard Way. But I thought it was appropriate for me to come on and talk about it live. Anybody that wanted to jump on and ask any questions. But I want to take you back to when this whole thing started with Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett. Like, I just want to take you through this thing step by step. And then people can make up their minds whether or not, there's some incompetence going on. Was it a mistake? Was it smart to move off? But for months and months and months and months and months, it started with the draft. You had Dylan Gabriel being a third round pick. You had Shedeur being a fifth round pick. I think a lot of Cleveland Browns fans and even the Cleveland Browns brass figured that they made a mistake with letting Joe Flacco go. And I can't say that I didn't have those thoughts as well. Joe Flacco a couple of years ago led us to the playoffs, had a debacle in the playoffs, but yet and still had a very good year. And so we let him go because we put all of our eggs in one basket of Deshaun Watson, and we all know how that turned out. Deshaun Watson popped his Achilles, and so they had an opportunity to bring Joe Flacco back. And the one thing that I had always said about the whole Joe Flacco situation is this: we are assuming that you're getting the same Joe Flacco that you got 2 years ago. And the last time we saw him outside of a Cleveland Browns uniform, man, it was like Joe Flacco did not look that good with the Indianapolis Colts. Now the Indianapolis Colts have moved on to Daniel Jones, and now Joe Flacco came back to the Cleveland Browns. And his first 4 games of the season were not very good. A lot of inconsistencies, low percentage of completions. Joe Flacco just did not look well. And so they made the change. Minnesota Vikings with Dylan Gabriel. Dylan Gabriel looked a little bit more efficient, a little bit more mobile. The offense looked a little bit better, even though, the bar right now is I'm hearing in Cleveland is everybody wants the Browns to score over 20 points. That's kind of the benchmark. But you have to say that Dylan Gabriel looked better. But for months, the Cleveland Browns coaches has been saying, hey, we're going to go with veterans, Kenny Pickett and Joe Flacco. And these are the guys, man, that are in film. These are the guys that are watching every day, that are in mini camp, that are getting paid big bucks to make evaluations on these positions. Whether it's wide receiver, whether it's running back, whether it's the defensive coordinator, offense coordinator, these guys are getting paid handsomely to be evaluators of this team. Now, we were told that they're looking for the quarterback of the future, so they drafted Dylan Gabriel, 3rd round, and Shedeur, 5th round. And there's been speculation that Shedeur was made to be drafted by the owner of the Cleveland Browns. Like, nobody really wanted him, but the Cleveland Browns owner called down to the front office, to Andrew Berry, Kevin Stefanski. Like, you guys are going to, if he's still there, you guys are going to draft him in the 5th round. So Shedeur is on the team. But now you get rid of Kenny Pickett. You send him away to the Raiders for a 5th round pick. Then you go into the season with Joe Flacco. Now you send him away, interdivision, by the way, to the Cincinnati Bengals for a 5th round pick. And so now all the things that you have been selling to the Cleveland Browns fans, your eye of expertise has seemed to been flawed. And again, we're talking about the optics. You look down south in Tampa Bay, and you've got a guy that you jettisoned from the franchise who is flourishing and arguably the MVP of the league right now if it were to stand today. Now you're trying to sell the Cleveland Browns fans. Okay, the veteran stuff didn't work. Our guy is going to be Dillon Gabriel. My question to Cleveland Browns fans out there is these are the same guys that have made the decisions about Joe Flacco the first time, Baker Mayfield, who's doing pretty good, Deshaun Watson. Now they're going to try to sell you that Dillon Gabriel is ready to take over the franchise. Now, I am all for giving Dillon Gabriel his shot. I think it was evident that Joe Flacco couldn't do it anymore. And now you have the Dillon Gabriel era. So now the coaching staff, the owners, the GM, they are all in bed with Dillon Gabriel. How confident are you in that? We just went through a couple of examples where the organization thought that they were right. They made an evaluation on a quarterback. They ended up being wrong. So how confident are you that this one is going to be right? I think it's perplexing, and I think it's pretty intriguing. The road that was taken to get here through the hard way, nation. The road that was taken to get to this point. I think it's really, really interesting. Now, here's the question that's going to come up. And the question is, believe you me, the question is going to come up. Who's QB2? Now, I think common sense would say that QB2 is probably going to be Shedeur Sanders. I would say I wouldn't bet against it, all right? But I wouldn't count on it, if that makes sense. Dillon Gabriel last week was named the starter. The number 2 quarterback who you just sent away was Joe Flacco. He was number 2. Shedeur Sanders, for some reason, was number 3. And I think looking at the body of work that Joe Flacco had for the first 4 games of the season, you can't really say that he was playing well. So Joe Flacco had to be quarterback number 2, right? Because of his expertise, his experience, his confidence in the offense. Just he brought a lot of experience to the table where you could justify, hell, he should be number 2 over Shedeur Sanders. And I'll buy that. All right? I don't agree with it, but I will buy that. Now you have still on the roster 2 quarterbacks that have way more experience than Shedeur Sanders. If that was the reason why Joe Flacco was number 2. And I'm not saying Joe Flacco shouldn't have been number 2 or he should have been number 3. I don't get paid the big bucks to make those decisions. I can just sit here and talk about it. So if experience was the deciding factor, 3 to hard way, nation, you still got experience in the quarterback room. You got Deshaun Watson, who is getting healthier and healthier each day. And you got Billy Zappi. So when you look at that, what changes for Shedeur? So I'm saying all the Shedeur fans out there that wants to see Shedeur number 2, it really doesn't matter unless Dillon Gabriel gets hurt. And we're not going to sit here and hope that somebody gets hurt, but I think Dillon Gabriel is going to get every shot in the world to be the starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. So I don't see him getting out of there anytime too soon. But if we want to play the quarterback 2 game, let's play it. Let's play it. I think it would be very easy for Kevin Stefanski to go with another number 2 besides Shedeur Sanders. I mean, every step of the way, they have found a way to not really incorporate Shedeur and elevate him to a platform that really anybody agrees that he should be at. Now, Shedeur hasn't helped himself. I'm not a Shedeur apologist. I'm not that. The whole mime stuff last week, silly, immature, didn't like it. The optics are bad. To be a quarterback, the quarterback position is different. You have an inner circle of former NFL football players that are friends with your dad that coached you at Colorado. Somebody needs to pick up the phone and say, Shedeur, you need to be quiet, be the quietest guy in the room, toe the line, and be a good teammate. And stop with all the silliness and all the shenanigans. Because if Shedeur is smart, trading him, it's not a good option. Because the NFL has already told you, and I mentioned this on our past episode of 3 the Hard Way with my boy Captain T and my guy Hot Rod. I told you in the last episode of 3 the Hard Way that Shedeur Sanders, the NFL has sent a message to him, every team pretty much, that we're not crawling on top of each other to get to you. Like, we don't really want you. We didn't draft you. You fell to the 5th round. So all of these people that are saying, hey, man, the Browns need to trade Shedeur. Trade him where? Who really wants Shedeur Sanders? And at the same time, I don't think the Browns are pro-trading Shedeur, because I think secretly, no matter how you do people, these guys have been around football a long time. They know that Shedeur has this talent. I just don't believe that everybody likes him. So another bad optics would be if Shedeur goes somewhere else, gets an opportunity and blows up. Again, it makes the Browns look bad. The Browns have done it before, a.k.a. Baker Mayfield. They've done it before. Baker's tearing it up right now. But Shedeur and his inner circle has to understand your best bet to step on the field and play is with the Cleveland Browns. You've got a head coach that is dead man walking unless he turns this thing around and makes it a fantastic season. Kevin Stefanski's not going to be long for the Cleveland Browns head coaching job. That's just fact. That's just fact. Whether you're pro Kevin Stefanski or not, man, is just fact. I don't see the guy being around for a long time, if at the end of this year. So Kevin Stefanski, in my opinion, is gone sooner than later. Depending on what you think about Dillon Gabriel, I think Dillon Gabriel is a talented quarterback. I think Dillon Gabriel is going to make the offense look a lot better. I think Dillon Gabriel is going to be very efficient in the offense. And I think his best games, I've said this out loud, his best games are going to be probably his first 3 starts. He's going to look fantastic. He's going to hit the checkdowns. He's going to be able to move out of the pocket. But each game he plays, there are defensive coordinators that are building a file on Dillon Gabriel, which they do not have now. It is why you have a lot of backup quarterbacks, 3 the Hard Way Nation, that do really well when they first get in. And then as that scouting file gets bigger and bigger and bigger with each game, their game starts to go down a little bit. So depending on if Dillon Gabriel can handle that, I think the verdict is still out on him. I don't know whether Dillon Gabriel can handle that or not. I'm just going to tell you that there is a good chance that Dillon Gabriel may not be the answer in terms of being our franchise guy. Who knows? The verdict is still out. So now you've got Dillon Gabriel. The Browns they've jettisoned Joe Flacco again to the Cincinnati Bengals. You've got Deshaun Watson, who's coming off an Achilles, and Billy Zappi, who's pretty much new to the organization. If I'm Shedeur, like, I'm sitting around and I'm saying to myself, and this is what his inner circle should be saying to him: just be quiet. Just be quiet. This is your best opportunity to step on the field. Be the best teammate, toe the line, act mature, be an adult, and wait for your opportunity. That's what I would be telling Shedeur Sanders. When I look at Joe Flacco getting traded, man, there are 2 things that have to be happening behind the scenes. They must have known that Joe Flacco's tank is empty for them to sent him to an interdivision rival. An interdivision rival that has already beaten you. And essentially what you're doing is scratching their back and they're helping you out. Like, to send Joe Flacco there, knowing that Cincinnati needs a quarterback, you're essentially helping them out if you're the Cleveland Browns. Unless you think Joe Flacco is washed and can't get anything done. Now, keep in mind, he's going to be over there getting paired with T. Higg and Jamar Chase. So he's going to have a better wide receiver group than what he had in Cleveland that won't drop the ball. But the Cleveland Browns must be confident that Joe Flacco is done. They also must be really confident that Dillon Gabriel is the guy. They must have been really pleased with what they saw last week, Sunday, against the Minnesota Vikings. And then everything that they've seen in the quarterback room and everything that they've seen in training camp and the preseason games, they must be pretty sure now all of a sudden. Because, again, they've been telling you that we're going to go with the veterans, we're going to go with Kenny Pickett, and we're going to go with Joe Flacco. They must be pretty confident now, again, that Dillon Gabriel is the guy. How good is their credit, though, is what I'm asking Three the Hard Way Nation. Are you a believer that Dillon Gabriel's the guy? Hell, they make mistakes all the time at quarterback. I know this current regime is not responsible for the 41 quarterbacks that have started since 1999, but this organization seems to not be able to get this thing right. So do you trust that this move is a good move and that Dillon Gabriel is the guy? They must be really confident in that. So you got to think about the thought process. And again, I know the Cleveland Browns are 1-4, and I'm surprised that I'm saying this because I'm really critical of the Cleveland Browns. I've talked to you about just my mental exhaustion with the Cleveland Browns, just my whole mental exhaustion with the Cleveland Browns. And I'm really surprised that I'm saying this, but watching the Browns for the last 5 games, the Browns are not as bad as everybody making them out to be. They need better quarterback play, and I think they're going to get that with Dillon Gabriel. As I said before, the question is going to be, when people start getting scouting reports on Dillon Gabriel, how good can he be then? A lot of people forget about the whole coaching aspect. When D coordinators get enough film, man, things become a little bit tougher. And that's where you find the makeup of your quarterback, whether he's a franchise guy, whether he's not a franchise guy. But the Browns must be really, really confident. I'm asking Three the Hard Way Nation, you guys confident in this? You guys confident that Dillon Gabriel can take this thing over? I was honestly surprised about the trade only in one aspect, is that you're taking a level of maturity out of that quarterback room in film sessions, the experience that Joe Flacco can give to the other guys. But I honestly believe that Joe Flacco believes that he can play, that he can still play this game. I'm sure behind the scenes, Joe Flacco expressed to Kevin Stefanski and the fellas that he still can play this game and that he wants an opportunity to start. So when you look, across the bridge at Cincinnati, you've got Joe Burrow who's going to be out for the whole season. Browning is not doing the job over there. He looked at that as a situation where, hey, I can go in there and play. And the thing that's scary about that is, sometimes this can be a little bit overrated, but not in this standpoint where now all of that intel from the Cleveland Browns goes over to the Cincinnati Bengals. There are a lot of things that Joe Flacco can share with the Cincinnati Bengals about the Cleveland Browns, how they're running stuff, verbiage, stuff like that. So now the Browns and Kevin Stefanski is going to have to do a lot of retooling, man. It's not going to be easy. They are going to have to do a lot of retooling. This is three the hard way. Please hit that like and subscribe button. I just had to come on here because of the big trade today live and just talk about this Joe Flacco thing. It's going to be interesting how this plays out, how much intel goes over to the Cincinnati Bengals from the Cleveland Browns. Does it matter? I mean, the Browns are 1-4. But if the Browns start to get going here, that could be that second matchup could be a huge thing. It shows you the desperation of the Cincinnati Bengals. I would have tried to go and get Kirk Cousins, but the thing that's hurting Kirk Cousins up, the thing that is holding him up is this. That big contract, man. Nobody wants to take that on. And so if Kirk Cousins really wants to play, he's shown, well, I'm not giving up that money. So he wants to collect a paycheck more than he wants to play. I would do some sort of restructuring. Any team that was interested. Kirk Cousins would make the Cincinnati Bengals for a year a playoff contender. He is not Joe Burrow, but he is a good backup quarterback, and in my opinion, still a starter in this league. Why they wouldn't go out to get a younger Kirk Cousins, a guy that has played in big games before, a guy that put up numbers with the Atlanta Falcons, a guy that led the Minnesota Vikings to the playoffs. Why you wouldn't go that route? It had to be for the money, but honestly, and who knows, behind the scenes, there may have been some dialogue. But from everything that I've heard, that the Cleveland Browns have not really made any phone calls with the other teams in the Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati Bengals have not made phone calls to the Atlanta Falcons to try to get Kirk Cousins. I just think that there were better options out there at quarterback than Joe Flacco. But there is a chance that the Cincinnati Bengals are looking at this and they are saying there may be something left in the tank. We liked what we saw when we played the Cleveland Browns earlier in the year from Joe Flacco. I don't know what that was. Maybe they need a veteran in the room down there, but it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Man, what do you think about the Joe Flacco trade? Give me your thoughts. Put them in the comments about the Joe Flacco trade. Are you surprised? Is this a good trade for the Cincinnati Bengals? Is this a good trade for the Cleveland Browns? It's interesting, man. It's interesting. I just think that there are two trains of thought in this whole thing. The Browns are happy with what they saw with Dillon Gabriel. They feel like they can move and mold a guy like Dillon Gabriel. Again, I think no matter what you say about the stats, the offense looked a little bit better on Sunday versus the Vikings in this kid's first start. And what I'll tell people, because I'm very close to the Minnesota Vikings side, and I know how they operate with Brian Flores as defensive coordinator, man, that is not an easy defense to look decent against. When you look at the resume of Brian Flores, most rookie quarterbacks crumble under the pressure. And I just don't think Dillon Gabriel crumbled under the pressure. Were there some errant throws? Absolutely. He made some bad throws. That's to be expected with a rookie quarterback. But he wasn't overwhelmed. He was calm. He got in and out of the huddle. Made some plays with his feet, made some good passes, threw some dimes. I mean, Dillon Gabriel did not look bad. So maybe that was enough for the Cleveland Browns and their brass to be like, hey, we can move a Joe Flacco for a fifth-round pick. And maybe Joe expressed to them, hey, I still want to play. If Cincinnati wants to bring me in and let me play, I want to do that rather than sit the bench. I mean, Joe Flacco's window is closing. This year is probably going to be it. Like when you talk about an ancient guy that can't move, like this year is probably going to be it for Joe Flacco. So he wants to go out on his shield. He doesn't want to go out sitting on the bench. Browning from Cincinnati has been absolutely terrible. They're going to bring in a former MVP, Super Bowl champion, Joe Flacco, to kind of man the ship. What that does for Cincinnati, I don't know, but they have the weapons to be able to enhance a guy like Joe Flacco, where the Cleveland Browns, when you look at their wide receiving core, is suspect. A lot of drops. It's definitely not Cincinnati. It's definitely not Cincinnati. But where do the Browns go from here, man? I'm just interested to see one of my co-hosts on Three the Hard Way, the captain, Mr. Terrence Austin, mentioned, hey, watch out for Deshaun Watson. And I thought to be honest with you, there are times, man, where I forget that Deshaun Watson is actually on this team. You know, I just forget about him. So when the Captain T was like, man, watch out for Deshaun. He comes off IR. If Joe Flacco doesn't work out, he basically said he doesn't think it's automatic for the team to go to Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders. Watch out for Deshaun Jackson. And I thought it was a great insight. And Deshaun Watson, albeit off IR, not completely healthy, but that quarterback 2 conversation is a valid one. Like, who is honestly quarterback number 2? I think actually Shedeur Sanders today probably is quarterback number 2. Today, right now, this minute, at 3:21 p.m. Central Standard Time, after the trade, he may be quarterback number 2. Will that hold up for the rest of the week? Like, conversations have to happen about how healthy is Deshaun Watson. What's his timeline in terms of being able to fully coming back? Have you had enough of Deshaun Watson? Me personally, that doesn't excite me at all. Doesn't move the needle for me. The whole Deshaun Watson thing, it just doesn't. I've seen enough. He is not a fit for the offense. I don't think he's a fit for Kevin Stefanski's system. I just don't think he's a fit for the Cleveland Browns. But there are some people that get excited about the name Deshaun Watson. So when he comes back and he's healthy, there's going to be that intrigue of what would Deshaun Watson look like. I think that's going to be a question that is going to have to be answered at some point. Is he better than a Dylan Gabriel? See, I think the Browns should be all in on the rookies. And anything that gets in the way of them being able to evaluate those rookie quarterbacks, it's just the wrong move. You've got draft picks next year. You've got to figure out, is Dylan Gabriel, if Dylan Gabriel is not, is Shedeur Sanders the guy that you want to move forward with? Right now, Dylan Gabriel, man, he's been the adult in the room. You haven't heard a lot of noisy crap come out about Dylan Gabriel. He's studying the playbook. There's not a whole lot of noise with him. Every opportunity he gets, I feel like he makes the most of his opportunities. Even when he fails, the body language is good. There just isn't a whole lot of noise when it comes to Dylan Gabriel, man. There's just not a whole lot of noise when it comes to Dylan Gabriel. And then you piggyback that with his performance on Sunday. Not bad. Wasn't great. Wasn't great. But for a first start international game against one of the best defenses in the league, not bad. Not bad. You look at a guy like Shedeur, he's got to start being the adult in the room. Too noisy. Too noisy. Some of it, I'm just keeping it real, some of it is not his fault. Like, why so many reporters, and I get it, I'm just being hypothetical here. I know he's primetime son, Deion Sanders' son, but why people want to talk to the third string quarterback so much, I'll never know. And he's got to defend himself with that. And again, I'm surprised his inner circle hasn't talked to him about this. Like, you got to give the most bland answers possible. As soon as you start to venture outside that box, they're going to get you. They're going to twist and turn everything that you say. And it's got to the point where that is so correct that you're pantomiming questions that reporters are asking you throughout the week. And the optics of it said he's not ready to lead. Like that's not, no matter what you think, you're pro Shedeur, you're anti Shedeur, that is not the visual that you want to give the owners. That is not the visual that you want to give your coaches. That is not the visual that you want to give your teammates or that locker room. Remember what the Cleveland Browns brass said about Baker Mayfield? You remember that when he left the Cleveland Browns, they said, well, we're looking forward to having an adult in the room or something like that. I'm paraphrasing. But they needed an adult in the room. So that's really important. I don't know if Deshaun Watson turned out to be the adult in the room or not, but that's what they didn't like about Baker Mayfield. So anything that gets in the way of the optics about you, that you can be a leader of men, you've got to quiet it down, you've got to stop it, and you've got to toe the line. That is paramount for Shedeur Sanders. Right now, Dillon Gabriel, he's got the reins of the franchise. He has never been in such a good spot. To be Dillon Gabriel right now, man, I would be so happy. I would be over the moon if I was Dillon Gabriel. They just got rid of Joe Flacco, former MVP of the league, Super Bowl champion, led the Browns to the playoffs 2 years ago for you because they're comfortable with you. So the question is going to be, man, can he handle that pressure? Can he handle that pressure? Is he going to make the most of his opportunity? The one thing that I can say about Dillon Gabriel is, again, long-term, I don't think he has the measurables to be a franchise guy. Doesn't mean he can't be a good quarterback in the league, but we're talking about a franchise guy, 17 games a year, plus a couple of playoff games if you're playing well. You're talking about 19 games a year with the possibility of a Super Bowl. Is Dillon Gabriel that? That wouldn't be my choice. But I'll tell you this, there's a lot of quarterbacks out there that didn't have the measurables that I like, that made it. I just don't see that from a guy like Dillon Gabriel. Again, I just think it gets tougher when people get a scouting book on it. I just think it's get tougher. Intriguing what went down today for the Cleveland Browns, man. Intriguing what went down today. There are a lot of times where you have coaches that get in front of the microphone for their post-game stuff or doing their weekly press conferences. They don't give you a lot. They play everything close to the vest. So I always say, rather than listen to their words, watch their actions. And I believe that their actions today shown me two things. That Joe Flacco, they feel, is done. And they believe in what they have in the quarterback room, especially with Dillon Gabriel. Speaks volumes. And I know there's been this split. There are some Browns fans that want Shedeur. There are some Browns fans that want Dillon Gabriel. I like what the captain and Hot Rod said. They just want the most competent quarterback at the helm of the Cleveland Browns. I'm right there with my fellas. I just want the best quarterback to play. And if that's Dillon Gabriel, it's going to work itself out to be Dillon Gabriel. But if it's not, and I believe he's going to get a fair shake and he's going to get every opportunity in Dillon Gabriel. If not, the same affordability to take over this franchise as Dillon Gabriel has gotten, Shedeur Sanders deserves to get that same shot. But Shedeur's got to toe the line. Like, he can't be acting a fool. Like, he's got to be there. He's got to be professional. He's got to be an adult. And if he gets that opportunity, he's got to come through. See, Shedeur has said so many things that when he gets his opportunity, because I believe at some point he will get his opportunity, man, Shedeur's got a ball now. There's no more talk. There's no more excuses. when you get up under center, this is the road that you've waited for. This is the road that you've taken to be the starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. And I do feel like more than likely he's going to get his opportunity. Again, I would never want anybody to get hurt, not wishing for anybody to get hurt, but Dillon Gabriel's a small dude. He's a small guy. And so it's just going to be interesting to see how this plays out. And if Shedeur wants that opportunity, man, he's got to wait. He's got to be the best backup he can be to Dillon Gabriel. Hold that clipboard and wait for his opportunity. But it is officially the Dillon Gabriel era for the Cleveland Browns. Lots of different options for the Cleveland Browns out there. Just wanted to jump on for about 30 minutes and give you an update on my thoughts in terms of the whole Joe Flacco trade. Being that 3 to Hard Way tapes once a week, you know, there are timely events or breaking news things that we'll hop on here from time to time, man. I'll be without my fellas to just talk about some things. So that's what I wanted to do today. But again, we will see you guys next Monday. We'll have another game under our belt. We'll talk about the Joe Flacco. I can't wait to talk about this whole Joe Flacco deal with Hot Rod and the captain, T, to get their thoughts on this whole thing, man. It's going to be interesting. This has been 3 to Hard Way. And as always, we'll see you when we see you. 3 to Hard Way Nation. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Please tune in every Monday night. We usually have our shows up then. We'll talk about the games and weekend, more specifically the Cleveland Browns. We'll make sure to see you when we see you. Joe Flacco traded to the Cincinnati